What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Project FITFO podcast. We've got a special one today. I know I say that about every single one, but truly I mean it. Every single one has been special, and today we've got a really special one. I'm really excited about this one. I've got Mr. Dustin Bogle here, and quickly I want to tell you why I asked. But first off, welcome.
I'm glad to be here.
Thank you for being here, my man. I'm so excited to have you here. I'm going to talk about how I met Dustin, because it goes into, if you watched a couple of the episodes before, I had Miss Cameron Petty on the show, and I met Dustin in almost the same capacity. So, networking group, Arate Syndicate, shout out to the Arate, and we actually tried to make some meetings or things like that through the Facebook group, and we were the only ones, myself, Dustin, and Cameron, that were actually trying to get people together. And, nobody really wanted to get together, or they were busy, or they were doing whatever. But yet I tried to do a meetup for coffee, and Dustin was the only one that showed up. So we went, we sat, we had coffee. Come to find out, we're in the same industry. Did not know that until we actually met up. And we started discussing a lot of the same things. We realized we have a lot of the same network that we didn't even know before. And we're going to dive in a little bit about that as well. But that's how I met Mr. Dustin Bogle. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dustin Bogle, thank you for being here. Absolutely, yes. So,
cheers.
There you go. So, Dustin, could you introduce yourself, say what you do, what your businesses are, and go on and so forth?
Yeah. So, fitness industry like you, pretty hardcore. Last 20 years, got certified by Nesta in 2004. So, it's literally my 20-year anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And started training people in their homes because I didn't know how I was going to get clients. So, I was just like, I'm going to go to their house and I'm going to train them there and bring the equipment and throw it in the back of my car, and I'm going to go to them. And I barely charged enough to even cover gas. It was a losing proposition, but it's like a lot of trainers. It came from a place of passion, and, started doing that. Fast forward a little, eventually smartened up, built out a nice garage gym in my 3-car garage, had people come to me, gave them a discount. Now I'm actually starting to make some money. Got enough clients where I felt comfortable taking the leap and getting my first retail space, and then basically over a 6-year period opened 6 gyms in the Southern California area, which is not an easy place, as you know.
No, it is
to
not.
Open gyms. So kind of fast forward past that, and today I have a digital marketing agency for gym owners, and then we also have a sales rep service where we put sales reps into their accounts and sell fitness programs for them. So,
and that company is called
Gym Reinforcements.
Gym Reinforcements. Okay. And also, you are a published
author. As you see. Thank you. Best-selling author. I'm going to always make sure to hit that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Reinforce Your Gym on Amazon. Grab a copy.
The firepower you need to build $1 million fitness business. If you don't go get this, you are wrong. So look out for this. Where can they find it?
Amazon.
Yes. So go on Amazon. Yeah, definitely. Give a big shout out for that. So, Dustin, this is the Project FITFO podcast. So what we talk about is how you figured it the F out. Knowing as entrepreneurs, we have a lot of challenges. We have a lot of obstacles. It's never the fun stuff. It's always the challenges of every day. I like to say every day is an adventure, because it truly is. Could you talk about in your early day, let's go back to the beginning, like you had said, you were a personal trainer. Can you talk about...
Well, even before that, man, you know what's a funny story that probably is going to go align with what you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if I shared this with you, Mark, but I actually used to be a professional wrestler. And so...
No way!
In the book, I have a picture. That's me with a pretty well-known WWE wrestler's name is Claudio. And in WWE, he was known as Cesaro.
Cesaro!
Yeah. I mean... Me and my son were watching Sting's retirement match yesterday, and I said I knew half the roster, and I've been in the ring with half the roster, from Seth Rollins to Bryan Danielson.
Get out of here.
The Young Bucks are my buddies that I knew growing up, and so they were in Rancho Cucamonga. And funny enough, I did that for 10 years. So, this was kind of like this dual personality that I had, because on the weekdays I was personal trainer Dustin and fitness expert. But then on the weekends, I was a weekend warrior, and I'm doing lucha matches in LA, and I'm going down to Mexico, and I was doing, pro wrestling. And my wrestling character then was Diablo. And then, funny enough, what's funny coming from like a white guy in Southern California, but I was all into like, you know, goth music, and I wanted to be mean because, you know, in high school I'm just this goody two shoes, and I'm nice to all the guys and the gals, and I'm just this wholesome guy. I was like, man, if I could pick a character, I want to be the mean guy. I want to come out and slap popcorn out of people's hands and piss them off.
As they would call it, the heel.
The heel, exactly. So essentially, I was doing that, and then fast forward a little bit down the road, me and my brother ended up tag teaming and become the Cutler Brothers. And so that was when I was really hard into fitness, and we made a personal trainer gimmick where we would smash people in the face with dumbbells. We would throw protein powder in the eyes so they can't see. We'd put a resistance band around their neck, and we'd choke them while we're doing chest flies. And so our whole, like, you know, fitness world was our wrestling character. But kind of going to the whole FITFO thing, I think a lot of people build their FITFO muscle at like specific moments where they're being challenged. And so when I was in pro wrestling, I took this crazy risk. I still don't even know why, thinking back at it. But a promoter came to me and said, we need a top heel to go and do a tour in Mexico. You know, would you be down to do it? You're going to be wrestling against Rey Mysterio Jr.'s uncle, Rey Mysterio Sr., every night in the main event. And the pay for 2 weeks was $2,000, which back then was like crazy money because I'd get $40. Sometimes I'd go do a lucha show and they'd only give me a hot dog and nachos. So I was like, $2,000, like count me in, 2 weeks, I'm gone. What's crazy is I checked all the boxes of what you do to go die in Mexico. I lied to my mom. I told her I was going somewhere else for wrestling training.
Now, how old were you at this point?
Probably 19 or 20.
Okay.
Very young. Did not know about international like cell phone service. So when I got over there, it didn't work. So I got no cell phone service. I took $200 in cash. I lied to my mom and didn't tell her. I called out of my work for 2 weeks and told them I'm going to be taking a work trip or a wrestling. I told them a wrestling tour, but I didn't say where. And then basically told most people not where. I didn't tell anybody where I was going. Like I just told most people I was just taking a wrestling tour and I didn't say where. So these are all the things you do to go die in Mexico. You bring no money, you bring no cell phone, you tell no one you're going there. And then, yeah, like I'm going there and I don't know Spanish very well. So I was like, not smart, Dustin. But one of the things I was challenged with is on this tour, we're wrestling, we're halfway through the tour. And the wrestlers all come to me one day and they're like, hey, we refuse to wrestle. Pack up your bags. We're going back to the tour bus because we're just on a tour bus going around Mexico City. And so the you know, Rey Mysterio Sr., who I trust, he's kind of the main like wise elder on the tour. I'm like, what's going on? He said the promoter ran out of money. He didn't do a good job promoting. And so there's not enough money to pay all of us. And we refuse to wrestle when we're not getting paid. We're all going home. And I'm like, I was waiting because the payout came at the end of the tour. I was like, I needed that to get home. I needed that. It's like, I don't got a cell phone. I got no cash. What the heck am I going to do? And wrestling's a pretty tight brotherhood. So one of the referees showed me his phone and he had a picture of him holding up Undertaker's hand, and that showed me that he was a ref with WWE. He went on tour with them, and him and I didn't know we couldn't talk. I didn't know the same language, so we talked our language, which was wrestling. And so he just pointed at it. He said, like, come with me, you'll be safe. Look it, I've been in this a long time. I'm gonna pay for you. And he was nice, and he fronted me the money and flew me home. And I was like begging him, give me your address, I'll send you the money when I get home. He's like, no, it's good. You're gonna be taken care of. But the crazy part is the day that they rebelled and said, we're not going to wrestle, the announcer went out to the ring and told everybody the wrestlers, you know, unfortunately are not going to be performing and there's no refunds. And as you can tell, the fans are going to be very upset. So they all come busting out of the stadium. And there wasn't a lot. It was like 200 to 300 people. But they all come running out. They get around the bus and they're shaking it. And so, like, I'm thinking to myself, I'm dead. I'm dying in Mexico tonight. Like, this is it. And they're mad and they're throwing rocks at the windows and they want to come in and they basically want to attack the wrestlers for not performing, and they spent their hard-earned money on it. And so the bus driver kicks it into drive and he starts hauling ass and he gets out of there. Luckily, he outruns the crowd. And just like a movie, he gets into the next town. He had precision driving skills. He backs it into an alley. We turn off the lights on the bus and we just see crowd members run past the alley. And I was just like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, I need to figure this the F out. How am I going to get home? And so we all we're all in our wrestling spandex. We put on our hoods and we just go out and we just have street tacos and we're just laughing. Like, this is the craziest story ever. You know, it's 2 a.m. I'm in Mexico. I got no money. The promoter's going to jail. We found out basically the cops went down to the stadium and arrested him for fraud and they took him off. I'm like, he's gone. He's my gateway to money. What am I going to do? And luckily, you know, that person stepped up and flew me home. But those are the moments that I think back at, and there's many throughout my life where I built my muscle in figuring out things that seem insurmountable and problems that you can't get through. And every day people overcome them and they don't know how. It's literally just like one small step at a time. It's just like, get out of danger, escape this crowd, start talking to my wrestling brothers, find just a plane ticket home. Then I got that. And then back then there was no like Uber or nothing. It's like, find a ride, hitch a ride with somebody. It's just like, you just think how these days people are just so crippled by small problems. When we didn't have cell phones, people would like stick their thumb out on the side of the road and go get around the whole country and go on tour. And like, you can survive way more than you think. I think it's good to get cultured, and that's what that tour showed me. When I go to other countries, how easy we got it in the United States. Like, we are so blessed, but people unfortunately act very crippled by the problems they encounter every day.
I think you're absolutely right about that. I mean, that's a whole nother topic we can dive into, but going into other countries and seeing what we both have seen in other countries, yes, we definitely got it great here in the good old US of A. And what an amazing story, by the way, because I bet you didn't know that I am a huge wrestling fan. So I've been a fan for a very long time. Every Monday and every Friday, I'm watching WWE. So it's really cool to hear that. Now that you did the whole wrestling thing, and now you had to, pivot, and now you're going into the fitness world, because you were already doing it, but now you're actually doing it full time. What was that like to, give up your wrestling career and go to being a personal trainer?
I put a deadline on myself because I got into it pretty young, like 17, 18, but I said 10 years. Like, everyone talks about this 10-year thing. I was like, I'm going to go 10 years. If there's not a big contract or any sign that I'm going to go somewhere big, I'm just going to go cold turkey because I'm an all in or all out type of guy. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things that I was good friends with a lot of wrestlers and they were getting a lot of opportunities. And so I just saw that, like, I was okay. I don't think I was the best. I did the basics all right, but I don't think I was going to make it to the big times. And I just started getting real with myself. I said, this is a very, like, entertainment type of driven business. And I think I can be entertaining, but what I didn't like about it, and you'll hear it a lot in entertainment, is the politics. Mm-hmm. Like, business is very clear. Like, that's what I like. It's like a game I can measure. Or sports, where it's like, if I put points on the board, I can earn the big contract. In wrestling, I just got to kiss more ass than the other guy. And I didn't like that. It was like, who's more friends with the promoter is going to get put on the main event and get the belt? Am I being friends with all the wrestlers and I'm not, like, rubbing them the wrong way? And then I got to get the fans. And I was just like, and then also I started to feel that I was more of a morning person, and wrestling is definitely, you got to be a night owl. Like, you're not getting home till 2 or 3. And I was like, man, I love being up in the morning. I got the most energy. And I was like, by 9 o'clock, I'm just start shutting down. So I just started feeling all the friction. I was just like, I don't like the politics. I don't like the lifestyle. There's a lot of drugs, steroids, womanizing, and like all the guys go through 3 different wives. And I was just like, my senses are screaming, don't do this. This is not you. This is like, you love the end result, which is when you're in the ring. That is the best part about the industry. Everything leading up to that is like terrible.
So you listen to your gut feeling.
Yeah.
So take this for everybody out there as you're listening to Dustin about, understanding the pros and cons to what you're doing and weighing them out. I think that a lot of times, a lot of people have a hard time with that. They have a hard time, like, actually putting down a list. Like, you just gave me a whole full-on list of why you shouldn't do wrestling. Now, there are probably a few things that you had that, well, I can continue this on and this is where I can go. But then you had to actually be real with yourself. Yeah. And that's part of figuring it the F out as well, is actually taking an accurate assessment and being real with yourself, looking yourself in the mirror and say, is this really going to get me where I need to be? And you already had a 10-year plan, if I'm not mistaken, correct? So that 10-year plan, you were like, yeah, this is not where I want to go. So speak on the pivot from that point, now that you see all these negative things, where you figured it out to moving to that next step.
Yeah, so that 10-year came up, like 28, and I was like, I don't got anything big, I think, in the works. And so also, people in the industry know California is a very difficult space to make it because most of the wrestling scene's on the East Coast. And so, again, you are a very expensive ticket. So you have to really bring some major draw power to the show, because they can just fly a guy a state away for $200. You're going to be like $1,000 to fly, both ways and pay to wrestle. So it's a hard place to make it. Most of the, Northeast is going to be where you're going to see a high density of wrestling promotions and pro wrestlers. Mm-hmm. But 28 comes around, I don't see a big thing, and what I did during the day or on the weekdays was wrestling, or sorry, fitness, and so I just decided to go all in on it. And this kind of goes to, if people believe in a higher power and all that type of stuff. It felt like there was a lot of resistance. Doors that should have been open for me in wrestling just were like, it took 3 times the work, 5 times the work, where I just felt like this feels like an irregular amount of resistance. Like, this is a lot of hard work to get on a lucha show in LA. Why do I got to work so hard for this, work for that? And for other people, they're getting it quicker. Then when I went hard into fitness, doors just started opening left and right. So it was almost to me like a sign from God that, like, this is what I wanted you to do. I'm showing you now by opening up the floodgates of, victories. And so what I decided to do was like go really hard on training people semi-private in my garage. And in a matter of 6 months, I went from 6 clients to 40 clients. And so it was like, again, off the books. I'm just doing cash. I'm training my garage. Me and the wife are just stacking cash. And I was like, this is great. But I was like, it's not the most professional service I can provide. When we're in the summer, we're sweating our balls off, and it's the winter. You can see your air, your breath, in front of you. I was like, we gotta get out of the garage. We gotta go legit. We gotta go get a retail spot. So then I eventually went and did that, and that's what I think really gave me a big enough problem to take my eye off of wrestling. Because I like, like you, entrepreneur, we like to solve problems, like to be working on things, like having projects. It felt like a side hustle, so I never gave it a full effort, and I put all my energy into wrestling. When I changed that focus and I went all in and professionalized and got a retail spot, that's when it started going nuts. And then again, in 6 years to open 6 gyms, that's God's way of saying, this is what you're meant to do. And like the other industry, lots of resistance, lots of no, lots of rejection. So you could choose, again, I believe that in all times you're facing 2 P's, the perseverance or to pivot. And so you ask yourself at all times when you're facing resistance, is this an endurance game? Do I need to keep pushing through and persevere and I'll be grateful on the other side? Or do I have to fold the cards and pivot? And so it could even be like, heck, later on I had to close a gym because I picked a bad spot that it wasn't meant to have my model, and I learned to do it quicker. My old me would have tried to persevere and muscle through it, but the more wiser business side of me realized, okay, I got to pivot. And so it is a hard call to make because you can't see the end. There's no crystal ball. You don't know which one's going to be right.
Oh, yeah.
But you build those instincts. You get, peers. You get other outside eyes. And eventually you make the best call you can make.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that. And you were able to utilize even other people's opinions or other people's suggestions, advisors, things of that to be able to pivot where you needed to pivot. And I think a lot of people have a hard time with that as well. And like you said, they want to persevere and sometimes they get stubborn. I would use that word, the stubbornness of like, no, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it this way. And it's like, bro, you're going down the wrong road, with this. So it's being able to have a level of humility to say, I am not doing what I could be doing. I need to go ahead and switch that up. And that's amazing to me that you went from wrestling to the fitness industry into doing it in your own home. And then 6 months later, having, a retail spot or somewhat after that. Now, you have a family, wife, and how many children do you have?
2.
2 kids. So you're, a dad, and, you have a lot of responsibilities. Tell me about how in the world of entrepreneurship and what you've done, how it has been something that you've had to figure it the F out when it comes to your family life in incorporation with your business life.
Yeah, it's funny because in sales, they say the number one way to get your sales guys more bought in is to get them to take on debt. Like, go get them to buy a car, go get them to buy a house. And now they're going to grind with sales because they got bills now. Like, there's nothing worse for a sales manager than guys that live at home and they got a paid off car and a paid off house because they got all the leverage on you. So you got to flip it. So I actually tell people, you want to get better with your time, start a business, have kids, get married, because like now you have to protect your time way better.
Yes, sir.
When you're single and you can do whatever the heck you want, you got no responsibilities. Like, it's funny, we have both on our team. We got single team members and married team members. It's funny, single team members tend to take their work into the weekend, while married people, it is done and is done by Friday at 5 p.m. And I say it's interesting because they both need to get the same thing done, but they both have a different mindset. The parent goes into the weekend saying, this must be done because the kids got sports, I got to shop, I got laundry, I don't got time to do this. The single person's like, I'm just chilling watching football. I could still send out these emails. I could still do this.
You know what's funny is these two gentlemen that are sitting next to us, that's the same dynamic. Okay. One's married with a kid. The other one don't have no wife, don't have no kid, don't have nothing.
And I don't want to speak in generalities because I've been proven wrong, but it tends to trend that way. And so all it comes down to is mindset. And so how do I, figure out how to run a business and balance a lifestyle? It's really just getting good at time management. And there is no core. I don't think there's a course or a tip or strategy. I think it is about just having so much crap thrown at you that I almost feel like it's an endless plate of pancakes. I basically say every day you wake up and there's going to be a ton of pancakes thrown on your plate, and you can either eat them all, but it's going to get really hard eventually, or you can throw them onto other people's plates. And so it's like that's delegation. So the mantra is like, don't eat the pancakes as much as you want to. People are like, I'll power through it. I can do this. No problem. I love carbs. Throw some syrup on there and they're gone. But the job of actually getting good at time management is to lob them onto other people's plates and get them off your plate, because then you're going to build leaders.
Yeah,
and so
that's the power of delegation. That's one thing a lot of entrepreneurs have a hard time to do.
Yes.
They have a hard time delegating to people, especially with the point of taking initiative and having creativity as well.
Yep.
Because you have the micromanagers, the people that try to micromanage people, and then or the ones that just say, hey, do it. This is the intent. Make it happen.
Yep.
So that's more me, by the way. And my team members can tell you that. I'm like, hey, this is your show. Make it happen. Just make sure that it's right along with my intent. You already know what the mission is.
I'm like that. I'm probably more like everyone's innocent until they prove themselves guilty. Like, I trust in everybody. I'm probably too trusting. I empower everybody. You got this. You're awesome. And then only when you fail or you show me you can't handle it, then we have to have a talk. My wife is the opposite. Everyone's guilty until proven innocent. You're not going to do a good job. I don't trust you. I got to micromanage you. And then through time, you show me you got this, and then I can back away. So I'm like you. I'm more like give people full autonomy off the bat, because I know that that's what I value, and we tend to project onto other people what we value. But like, I also think it's the only way to build a leader. I don't know many leaders that were built out of micromanagement, right? And so it's kind of like a trust built through doing tasks, through time, through building a relationship. Those are all the things that eventually you can do to build a leader.
Interesting. So I love what you said about, tackling all the time management of all the pieces of the pie as an entrepreneur, your family life, your business life, and actually managing, because that's something a lot of people struggle with. I hear it all the time with young entrepreneurs, people that are just coming into the space, whether as personal trainers or whatever, that, I'm having a hard time having my significant other, whether wife or husband, to understand what I'm doing. And it's causing more of a roadblock than it is a support system. So how did you, how did you give your wife or your family as a whole kind of the outlook on what you were working towards? And then what did you do from there?
Yeah, I think my wife...
Good little sound effect there. We're testing it out.
It's like the marriage sound effect.
Yeah, right. That was a gem.
But yeah.
You see, that was that creativity and that initiative I talked about, So.
One thing I will give my wife credit, like, she is down. No matter, like, where we bicker is little problems. Every big decision I've came, she's just like looked me in the eye and said, let's go. Like moving to Texas, like you from California. I just said, hey, like, this is not where I would like to raise my kids. I think, again, cost of living's out of control.
Absolutely.
If we're having a hard time as business owners, fast forward 30 years from now, what are they going to be going through, right? And I said, so we can look at it as just ourselves. Like, yes, we'll get a win. Our life will be better, but let's think about our life, our generation of our family, their lives too. And so she's just like, yeah, like, not even in any fight. Like, let's go. Start a business. Hey, babe, thinking of starting a business. Let's go. Like, the big decisions, she has never fought me on. Like I said, we'll bicker on little things. So that's one thing that, again, I think a lot of people can almost test out before they go all in with them, is like, make sure that you guys work well as a team. You're going to have differences, because all people do. Nobody is identical and they match up 100%. They agree on everything. But you got to decide, like, on the big ones, do we see that we can work as a team and get through this, right? And do we complement each other? And, some couples work together in the business, some don't, and that's okay. Like, I've learned I'm not going to cram all the stuff that I like to learn about business and all the interests that I have down my wife's throat because she does not care. She's just like, bring me the vision. I'll be the details person. She's like, I don't want to listen to this podcast. I don't want to read that book. I don't want to go to this mastermind. She's like, you bring me the idea and then I'll execute. Where before I tried to force feed it and I realized it was only causing more friction. She didn't like, I would be giddy like I'm going to a mastermind or like, oh my God, I signed up with this coaching program. And she's like, I'm not interested in that.
You know what's hilarious is that I had the same exact issues.
Yeah.
Because I was so excited and I was like, come on, babe, let's go to the RTA Syndicate Live, come with me. And she was like, I'm good, right? And then it was like, hey, I'm going to Coaching Con. Hey, I'm going to Gym Con. Hey, I'm going here. I'm going there. And sure enough, she was like, So it's funny, both two different people, but yet dealing with the same issues when it comes to marriage and stuff. So we've got this.
You.
What is it? Is it me? Is it me tapping my hand? Oh, there we go. Look at that. I've got magic hands.
Magic hands.
Come to Project FITFO. Watch this. Hey. So
that's cool.
But with that being said, let's fast forward a little bit. Okay, so let's fast forward to now you are in California and you already opened up your brick and mortar and now you're looking to expand and scale. Go from there. So now you have to figure it out how to actually build bigger.
A thing that I think really brings out the best in people is when they have their back against the wall. And I think actually, again, when we're talking about the United States, too many people are too comfortable and they've never had that edge pulled out of them. When you got air conditioning and food's brought to you by Uber Eats and movies are on demand on Netflix and just like, maybe you don't have to be a millionaire living in a mansion, but you have most of your basic needs covered. You never get that like fire in your belly and that burning, sensation that I need to achieve something and get out of here, And so I like being in a place where I got my back. I have to sometimes manufacture it because I do have a nice house and I do got a lot of creature comforts and I could just kind of live a lazy lifestyle. And so I have to manufacture stress, which I think is what most people are doing with these cold plunges and these, silent retreats. Like they're trying to find a way to create stress because they don't have, the right ones in their life. And so they're trying to get that edge that, I know I brought it up earlier, like the immigrant edge, because I tend to find people who come to the U.S. from another country are more grateful for it than people that were born here. And it's just because you don't know anything different. So even me, I'm taking my kids on a trip out of this country. We're going to Europe and Asia this year, and I want them to see third world countries. I want them to see people sleeping under a slat of tin on a little hammock in a tree because typhoons destroyed where they live. And, I think that essentially is it. But where I had my back against the wall when I opened the brick and mortar was now I got a lease. Holy crap. Now I got to pay all these bills that are just new bills that I never, I just basically took all my bills in a month and I doubled them. And it's like, what do I do? And so the answer, as I looked more and more online, was I need to learn this game of marketing. I need to get people's attention and get them in here. And this was in the early days when like Facebook ads literally launched and I was getting $1 leads. And it's like, good God, I wish it was still like that. But you got to pivot because nothing in marketing is going to stay the same forever. But that was when I could literally run an ad and I was just like a goofy and I didn't even know what the heck I was doing and point people to a page and they would check out on their own. I was just like, no lead nurture needed. People just click the link, buy a challenge, and then walk in on Monday. And I'm like, this is magic. There's just people walking through my doors. This is like, I've learned to be a magician, I'm going to put as much money into this. And that's honestly one of them. It's not the only secret. People say, how'd you open 6 gyms in 6 years? I said, I mastered marketing. Every gym I opened with 200 members on day one, we were profitable. Like I didn't have to ever stress about being in the negative because I knew how to play the game to get people to walk in with like pre-sale membership sales and, getting people to walk in.
All right. So now let's tap into the marketing aspect. So as we talking about marketing, who'd you learn from about marketing? Because I'm sure you wasn't, just an automatic genius in marketing. There was somewhere where you had to go learn it or you had to maybe an advisor or something. Where did you learn about marketing for your businesses to grow even more?
Yeah, I mean, it's the two most simple places most people can find the answer to a problem that nobody goes to, sadly, is Google and YouTube. And so I went on good old YouTube and I said, fitness marketing, fitness business marketing. Guy named Bedros Keuilian came up that many of the people in the fitness industry know. And so he would just show you like how to run a Facebook ad or how to locally market in your area. And so I took action on all that stuff. You know, I wasn't just watching it for fun. I was watching it to learn.
Mm.
And people don't realize, like, man, between podcasts, between YouTube, like, they got it made. But I think there's like now this new problem, which is there's too much information accessible, and it's all really good that now people don't just look past it and they don't value it. And like I'm looking, I'm like, oh my God, that guy just gave you the playbook on how to do X, Y, and Z. But you're clicking next episode on your podcast lineup. You're ordering the next book. And it's like you didn't even take action on what they just taught.
Well, not only that, but then they're also watching people do it and like kind of just admiring the folks that are doing it when they could do it themselves. I mean, it's funny. You speak of, Bedros, you look at Alex Hormozi, he put all that information out for free. I mean, literally for free. Playbooks on how to do sales and how to do, gain leads. And, how many people actually put it to work for them. It's amazing because you, like you said, the blueprints right now in this day and age, everybody has the blueprint. I mean, even me and you have the blueprint. Yeah. We're giving out blueprints to everybody as well. So easily. Like here's how you do marketing, lead gen, lead nurture, sales, fulfillment, retention. Here's all the tools you need. Take it and go forth and do great things. And you watch so many people just go, okay, thanks. And they don't actually do anything with it.
And even looking back, I even feedback on myself. Sometimes you're just not at a maturity yet where you have like the business acumen or the mind to even receive it. Like you can, what if you had somebody like Elon Musk come and just tell you how to open a Tesla, competitor? Like your mind would melt. You're like, I don't even can't even think of the first step to take after you've given me so much information. So it's almost like a baby. You got to also build as an entrepreneur to receive the right information to take action on. And sometimes what I find is people are mismatched. A baby is talking to an 80-year-old in business. Those two are just generations apart. So you need to find someone that's just like a next step ahead of you and just focus on them. Don't get distracted on taking Warren Buffett's advice, who's been doing it for 8 decades. Find the business owner that's like making 20 more grand than you a month. And that's probably what you need, because
which is hence the reason why we're even doing this podcast is because I wanted that. I wanted people like yourself, like myself, to say, look, we ain't too far ahead of you. Yeah, we do got some experience. I mean, you're obviously got a little more experience than I do, but we have a lot of experience. But we aren't too far ahead of you. Like you can actually catch us. You could probably catch us quicker than what we actually made it to where we're at. And that's the whole key component to this and everything else I do. And I know you are the same way. It's like, no, we want to give you the information so you don't have to go through the hardships that we went through coming up. You're going to go through hardships regardless, but why take on those that we can give you tools to not have to deal with? And it's like, but it's
AI,
funny.
YouTube, there's just so many tools. And so essentially what the problem is that people are not like taking enough action, and they're just watching too many people go past them, and they're not like working on just putting in skills and reps. It's just pretty much failing. Like how many fails to a success, but people taste one failure and then they back off, and then they don't decide to go further. And so essentially it's like, accept there's going to be failures and burn through your failures as fast as possible, because that's how you're going to get to that success. Right?
And that's how you ended up getting 6 gyms in 6 years.
Yeah.
Is because I'm sure during that 6 years, was it all, accomplishments the whole time, and, there was no failures whatsoever? Yeah. Or did you feel
major mistakes? Number one, I went to a town that had high income, and I thought, oh, this is all I need. It's a high income area. I didn't know anything about the city. And then geographically where I put it was right in the smack dab of where all the retired people live in that area. So like all these white-haired people going off to play golf, grabbing a sandwich before they go off to golf, showing up to their physical therapy, or walking in front of my windows. And I'm like, where's the middle-aged people going to lose fat? And people would chuckle. They're like, you opened a gym on that corner? Why? And I was like, because I want to help people. What do you mean? They're like, you're in this area called Leisureland in Laguna Hills. And they're like, it's because there's all people on a fixed income, or they show up in that area to go golf. They're like, there's no like middle-aged families within 3 to 5 miles. And I'm like, I just opened a gym because I just looked at one stat, which was, what's the household income? Oh, 110. That's gonna be great for a boot camp. Let's go. Didn't do the deeper diligence. So it's like, before you make a massive decision like a 5-year lease, talk to other people in the area, talk to your peers, sometimes some outside eyes, because all it took was one person to say, oh, don't go to that corner, go to that corner, boom, could have changed a huge, decision. And there's so many big decisions like that, like what industry you're going to get in, right? Like which one could be the most profitable for a lot of coaches. It's going to be small group. Like they're going to be able to work with 3-4 people at once and make $200 in an hour, or they're going to go run a class down at a gym somewhere and make $20. So it's like, that's a big decision. And then, what we tend to do is once we have something we've decided on, we're going to put in the work and we're going to grind and we're going to work on it and make it better. So if you're going to work your tail off, why not make sure you pick the biggest opportunity possible so that your hard work goes into the right thing, right?
Yeah,
So,
and that's just based off of, proper calculations, but also doing your research.
Yes.
Do your R&D, as they say, your research and development before you go doing, something. But we have all done some certain things that we're like, we shouldn't have did that.
and that's a perfect example. It's like I was working just as hard on that gym as I was the others. Completely different results because I made one bad decision, which is where to place it. And the other one, I picked a great location, built it to be $1 million gym, and I was putting in the same work, putting the same marketing materials, same training on the team. So that's where, again, people got to really ask for a lot of counsel and mentorship when they're in that big decision point where it's like that fork in the road. Like, if I go this way or this way, I can completely change the trajectory of my life. I should really take a moment here and I get a lot of outside eyes before I make that decision.
Do you think that you scaled too fast?
Yes. I was under pressure. So at that time, I was in a franchise, Fit Body Boot Camp. And so they were selling like hotcakes. Like this is pre-COVID, 2017, 2018. Mm-hmm. Like franchises are just going up everywhere. And I'm literally looking at the map, and it just felt like every day they're putting a flag. And so there was a lot of pressure, just being honest. Like they call it first right of refusal. They're like, hey, somebody just filled out an interest form at this city next door to your gym. But if you grab it first, we won't entertain their offer. And so it was like, they didn't even put any money down. They just filled out an interest form, and they were pressuring the owner. And I was just like buying things because I was.
But that happens in all franchises, by the way,
yeah.
because it happened in my franchise as well. Yeah. It happens in my franchise where, it's like, hey, I want this area. And it's like, well, I got some interest, so we're going to need you to put the money down.
Money where your mouth is.
Yeah, exactly. So, having a good idea of how to scale. But I've also seen a lot of people, where they try to scale too fast.
Yes.
And it came crashing down on them.
Yep.
So let's fast forward. So now you got to your 6 gyms, 6 years. Now you're at a point where you're like, okay, what am I going to do next? And what did you do from there?
The thing I needed to do next was fix those gyms because I basically, to your point, the reason mine even came crumbling down slightly was because I didn't put leaders in place. So I didn't lose all 6, but I lost damn near half of them. And it was one was in a bad area and another 2 didn't have good leaders. And so my, naive mind at that time, I didn't have the business acumen I do now, thought fitness gyms are easy. I just, get equipment, I get trainers, and I just run my magic marketing and we'll be in business forever.
Let's go ahead and just stop right there. Put a pause on that. Ladies and gentlemen, please, did you hear that gem? If you're going to buy a franchise of a gym, it will not run itself. As contrary to popular belief, you have no idea. Well, no, Dustin does, but you guys have no idea how many times we have heard that. Well, I bought a gym. It should just run itself, right? Yes. And it's like, no. Because regardless of what kind of model it is, whether it's independent contractor or it's membership based or it's group fitness, leadership is a necessity. And I think that that's important for you guys to hear from Dustin from his own experience. And I'm saying it from vouching for it because I've dealt with it myself. Leadership is a necessity.
Specifically in fitness, I feel like on-site leadership because, let's say, you own 10 Anytime Fitnesses and the leader's great, but they're never on site. Like the team starts to feel that and they start to feel like I'm just making money for this person that's never here. So it's either A, there's great on-site leadership in the form of a GM or a partner or an owner, an operator like that's there, or the owner has to have presence because it is a very feelings business. And then you don't control the feelings, the team starts to change the narrative against you and feel like, again, you're this bad guy and you're here to just exploit them and all these types of things. So that's the problem when I got to 6 was I couldn't be at all of them often enough to fulfill my team's needs and make them feel like they're seen. And then I would start to actually put less attention on the strong ones. I'm like, oh, those teams are great. They're super profitable. Like I'm never going to go visit those. I need to go to these fires. But then these teams start to drop their production because they're like, well, Dustin doesn't care about us and he's over at these others. Maybe those are his favorites. I'm like, actually, these are my headache gyms. And that's what they say about even leading teams is you can start to not check in on your star players and put more energy into your weak players, but you start losing your star players because they never get any time with you. And part of the reason they signed up wasn't just comp. It was probably because they want to get mentorship from you too.
Oh, yeah.
And so if they start losing access, they're like, the comp isn't enough. I'm out of here. So that's where I just started feeling like a chicken with my head cut off. It was like I was just rotating gyms and we were getting to a point where it wasn't like growing. I was just maintaining it and trying to not let it all burn down. So that was first step was like, I got to fix this. And that was the pivot was like shutting down the losers. And this happens in the multi-location kind of world. Like Starbucks, even to this day, closed down 200 locations like last year. And they're amazing. But you got to just eventually make the hard calls, which is like, these are the losers, these are the winners. The losers got to go. Unfortunately, we know that's lost jobs. We know that's clients without a gym. We'll try to place them somewhere better, but this just doesn't make sense anymore. And the good leaders make those calls quick. And that's what I learned was I started getting around people who are more investors. They would get losers too. They've been in business for decades, but they'd cut in like under a year. I'm like, man, they just opened 4 months ago and they're already shutting it down. They're like, they're not seeing the numbers they need to see. And so it's like very, very quick. Where when you're like emotionally attached to your team and your clients, gym owners will fight and fight and fight, and a decade will go by and they still aren't making any money. And then they'll finally fold the cards, and it's like they could have just moved a lot quicker. And that's a hard, easy thing to say, a hard thing to do. But I eventually manned up and I did that and I made those calls. Then I got the house in order. We got the good leaders. We got everything dialed in, SOPs. And then the business started getting way more profitable, funny enough, with less locations. And then that's where I just started to feel less challenged because, like, okay, I had the big problem. I figured it out. But, like, I need something to work on because I almost made it, like, autopilot, which sounds like the dream, but it's true.
You still got a lot more energy.
Yeah, I'm not old at all. So I was like, it's like, what am I going to work on? And then that's when I pretty much, launched gym reinforcement. So
let's dive real quick about that to cap this podcast off. Let's talk about gym reinforcements. So you saw a necessity that was needed, right? And you came up with a solution. So what was the solution with gym reinforcements?
Yeah, most of the marketing agencies that I even worked with, because again, at some point when I had 6 gyms, I was just like, I need to be mentoring my team. I need to finally hand off this marketing. And it was a hard thing to trust. So I would hire a couple agencies, but then I'd see the exact ad they're running for me, literally copy and paste it to all these other gyms. And I was just like, and they weren't like within our brand or their, or different models. And I was just like, they just set it and forget it. They don't really care about you and your brand. They just copy and paste the same ad copy and they just set it and forget it. And so I just tend to find that there's a lot of marketing nerds that never owned a gym and they wanted to do the least service to make the most profit. And so that's why I finally decided, like entrepreneurs, I see a problem, I'm going to invade and I'm going to do a better job. I'm going to make an agency for gym owners by a gym owner. I know the words that they want on their ads, but I also know on my marketing brain what's going to talk people in. So I'm going to blend those together. We're going to do custom images for every brand so they're not just copy and paste static, photos that a lot of us get when we work with agencies. So essentially that's, and then I also wanted to be very cost friendly because most gym owners have thin margins and they're not going to have the ability to hire $2,000 to $3,000 to $4,000 marketing agency. So that's kind of all the boxes I wanted to check. And so that's, essentially what we're doing for owners. And then setting things up, now this Go High Level thing came into the world and we're like, man, now we can set you guys up on automations and we can, alert you when you get a new lead. And I'm like, this is amazing. So I really was like setting out to do that, to like solve a problem that I had, like a lot of businesses, to solve for an industry that I know. I don't know, what to do for a lot of other industries, but I know our industry really well and how to solve that. But as you know, one problem always leads into another. They're like, now I got so many leads. I got no time in my family. I'm getting pinged all day. I don't want to do this. So then we saw, okay, well, sales reps, we need to have a service for that. Automations can only take you so far. And until AI really makes some major leaps, people can kind of feel when it's being done to them, when an AI person's talking to them. And there's even talks the government's going to put a law in place that you have to identify that you're talking to an AI bot. You have to say like, hey, I'm Joe. I'm an AI bot. So if that comes true, like we're not going to be able to lean on it to do a lot of sales. Like people still won't mind. They'll say, hey, I don't mind talking to an AI bot and they'll buy from it. But there's always going to be a section of people that want to talk to a real human, right? And so we decided to go and take, people from the Philippines, train them how to sell fitness, that had sales experience. We just retrained them on selling fitness, and we're going to place them into a gym owner's world. And the big reason for that is it works out great. They actually are taught English in their school. They speak very fluent, very strong English, and because they work their nights as our hours, or sorry, their early mornings as our nighttime hours, we actually get nighttime coverage, which is a hard time to staff in fitness. So like that 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. window is not desirable for a lot of people. They'd rather be home and not working late nights. Well, for them, that's like 3 a.m. to 8 a.m. because it's pretty much like a 12-hour difference. So they're waking up real early, but like they get a great paying job. In the Philippines, $8 a day is their minimum wage. So, what we pay them, they're making really good money.
Yeah.
I got people getting investment homes, redoing their kitchen cabinets, buying cars. I'm like, man, this is going a long way for you.
So, wow, that is amazing. So, I mean, listen to this journey. I mean, come on. This journey is from wrestler to personal trainer in your house to having one, small retail spot to then scaling to 6 gyms in a franchise, and then now having a marketing agency. Now, you don't own any of those gyms anymore?
I do, but I'm actually in the process of selling them to my general managers, which is cool for them because they get to become business owners. And that's really where I feel like my next chapter is going to, is like creating a life for people to be either a first-time business owner or to upgrade their skills as a business owner and take their skills to the next level.
That's why me and you get along so well, because I've actually told my team that. I said, you stay on the train, I'm going to do exactly what you said. I'm going to go ahead and just build this whole thing and then hand it off to those that are still on the train that are worthy.
Yep.
They get it, they can rock and roll, and they don't got to worry about the headaches that we've had to work with from the beginning. So this has been a phenomenal podcast. I'm like, I got goosebumps. It's like one of those things that I believe that everybody should listen to. And I know that I'm going to say that, and people are going to say, oh, you're just saying that because you're a podcast. No, I mean, the gems you dropped today, Dustin, is for the young entrepreneur, the younger in startup mode of entrepreneurship needs to really hear this, because then they know, okay, this is the things that I could potentially find out in any industry, right? Any roadblocks or things like that, but this is how I need to figure it the F out. Yes. So where can they find you? So that way, if anybody of our listeners want to find you and reach out to you.
I'm most active on Instagram and Facebook. So just search my name, Dustin Bogle. You want to get a copy of my book on Amazon, Reinforce Your Gym. And then my website's dustinbogle.com. So all the courses or services that I provide are on there. So
awesome. So thank you again. So for all of you out there, please reach out to Dustin if you have any questions. This has been phenomenal. Don't forget, if you want to be in this business world, you've got to learn how to figure it the F out. And we are done. Thank you, Dustin.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you guys for visiting Project FITFO podcast. If you wouldn't mind, I would love for you to like, subscribe, and share to somebody that this would actually benefit, or just because it's pretty funny and it has some interesting shit. So with that, please visit us on Spotify and on YouTube, and you can also look us up on the gram. I look forward to hearing from all of you. If you want something good, go ahead and comment Project FITFO, and I'm going to send you something in your inbox. Talk soon.